Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's, Facebook Live or Facebook group recording where we bring in the guests from all over the world to share their gifts and talents in this healing circle group that we can share and inspire and transform together. So, and today we have Kate, and she's from UK as well. So I think we're just hitting different countries right now. So if you are UK, if you are from Europe, feel free to drop later with a comment where you come from. I think it's great to sometimes you have no idea how close your people is actually located, right? So welcome, Kate. How are you today?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Yes, so how about you start, with introduce yourself because you are actually offering service for specific group people, and I think I want you to introduce yourself in a way that instead I introduce you because I can add on something like that, but feel free to introduce yourself, what you do, what you offer, so the audience can understand, and then know your specialty.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm a nutritionist, and I also work with plant medicine. Um, in particular, I focus on skin health and cellular rejuvenation. So my main focus is in helping particularly busy perimenopausal and menopausal women to really achieve the sort of glowing skin. And as a side product of that, they also get sort of more energy, better digestion, balance the hormones, and just generally all round feel fabulous. So that is my aim.
Okay, first question. What got you into? Because you're young, right? So what got you into this specific niche?
Well,
Because a lot of time, like if I went to, let's say, if I'm a mother now, I can talk about like what my journey was when I'm pregnant, things like that. So I correct me if I'm wrong. So, but I'm just curious, like what got you into specifically working with menopause women and then help them to improve the digestion, their diet and the skin. So yeah.
yeah. So hormone issues are something that affect us at all ages. I've certainly had that for many many years. Obviously, I'm a lot older than I look because my programs work. Obviously, um,
Yeah, working with me make me
but
feel like look like a 22. I'm ready for that.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, but yeah, I've always had an interest in all sorts of areas of plant medicine. I had an interest in skin as well because due to having very sensitive skin, I always had to formulate all of my own cosmetics. So that was something that I've always done and made natural cosmetics and so on. And so they sort of mesh together all the different sort of areas of interest. But yeah, hormones and digestive health and all of these things, they're such a massive problem for everyone. And so many people are really suffering with these problems
Mhm.
now. Um, and in particular, I feel like, especially women as they're approaching menopause, it's such an area that's still so overlooked. So many doctors are very dismissive, unfortunately,
Yeah.
about your problems with hormones. They're not really well understood, and very often, women feel just very disempowered. They feel like they're getting all of these problems, from skin breakouts, but also just lack of energy, putting on weight, and all of these
Mhm.
things that they feel they can't control. And yeah, I just really wanted to help to try and give that control back to people by sort of explaining that there is a way that we can manage these things.
Yeah. So you shared that, not many people understand, excuse me, or they know what's changing in their own body because we're not being taught, right? So what are some biggest myths about skincare and nutrition that you like to debunk that help us to clarify? People ask me, Gina, what are some biggest things people think about it when you talk about energy healing? I was like, well, I can tell you top three. So in your profession, what are some big myths that you want to kind of clarify? Say, hey, this is not what you think. This is the truth, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think a big one is that the only way to have sort of, great skin is a bottle of expensive moisturizer.
Mm.
Um, so many people they spend an awful lot of money on all the latest skincare products. There's so many sort of marketing, campaigns about, oh, this does this and all these wonderful things these products do. And I mean, your natural skincare products, are great, but actually they're very, very limited in what they can do because they're only working on the outer layer of your skin. And
Yeah.
if you want to nourish skin truly, it's from the inside. And I mean, it saddens me when people are sort of spending so much of their time searching for the latest perfect beauty product, and it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Another myth that I see a lot is you've almost got these sort of two opposing sides. So on the one hand, you've got people desperate to get the latest beauty product to sort of get rid of their wrinkles and so on. But of course, it's sad that youth is so associated with beauty because, of
Mhm.
course, we all age and, there's nothing wrong with that. But on the other hand, so much of what we see, the, wrinkling on our skin, age spots and things like that, they're not actually an inevitable part of aging. They are a sign that our cells are becoming damaged. And of course, if our cells are becoming damaged, that's also going to lead to a lot of degenerative diseases that we also associate with aging. So actually, we don't want to look at it in a negative way that, oh, it makes us ugly if we've got wrinkles. Of course not. But what it does do is it suggests that maybe there are some nutrient deficiencies that we could look at. And actually, if we can address those, then we're going to be overall healthier. We're going to have less chance of degenerative diseases. And it's really empowering because we can see the effect that we're having on our skin. So we can see that we're making positive changes. And yeah, as I say, I'm all about sort of, empowering people to really, really improve their health. So that's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I mean, when you are talking or sharing, that's just something popping into my mind is like everybody actually they aging differently, right? Every not yes, you could say Asian, like we usually say Asian and African American, we just aging gracefully because we have different DNA. And each person actually they aging different. Some people maybe at 30 they already have wrinkles. Some people at 45 they still don't have wrinkles. So everybody is very different. So I feel like, everybody needs to just not thinking about I am that category or what, or more of understanding how that things works. But we are not talking about aging here. I want you to also share a little bit simple this dietary changes can lead to this healthy and more radiant skin, right? Of course, what do we consume is actually matters more about what you're putting on your consuming different way, external and internally, right? So can you share a little bit of like, simple things like, hey, girls, or not girls, hey, ladies, try those things, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a big one is obviously making sure that we are getting enough hydration. We all know a lot of people are not drinking enough water. That obviously very much shows up on your skin.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing is just eating more fruits, in particular vegetables as well, especially
Mhm.
green vegetables, great for you. But yeah, introducing more fruits, be it fresh fruits, frozen fruits, however you're eating them,
Mhm.
they're so, so, so good. And if you can just, replace a few of those sort of maybe not so healthy snacks, the crisps and the chocolates and the sweets and those kinds of things, just replacing a few of those with fruits, that's a really, really good strategy.
Yeah.
Another thing is making sure we're getting enough healthy fats. So
Mm.
many people still have a bit of a thing, sort of like, oh, I don't want to eat fat because it's going to make me fat. Yeah. But again, healthy fats, particularly those omega-3 fats, super, super important. Very
Mhm.
often when we've got dry skin, it's actually because we're not getting enough omega-3, which means our cells
Mhm.
just can't hold that water in properly.
Mhm.
So that's really, really important. And just making sure that we've got a good balance, our
Mhm.
carbohydrates, our fruits and vegetables, they are really good for us. Also our healthy fats, and we want some good protein in there as well so that we can make our collagen and elastin. And just making sure we've got that balance, because a lot of fad diets will tend to sort of demonize one whole food group, and we do need all of them. They're all really, really important. Lots of fiber, that's really key for keeping everything in balance.
Mhm.
But yeah, balance is always the way forward, with
Okay.
with anything.
So I do love it that you actually touch a different, category, right? Water, vegetable, healthy fat and fiber and all sorts of things. So for people really, they don't know, like they don't know what is a healthy fat, okay? Because they're the way of the eating is not there today. It's been decades, and also families and how they eat. So if you can help us, and again, we want to be very clear, everybody is very different. Not just saying, okay, those top three, vegetable will help you have the good skin, whatever. It's really depends on, every single person. But if you really have to put on, say, hey, give me three of the vegetables, three of the healthy fats, three of the fiber, whatever, however it is, what's that gonna look like? Again, we're not gonna fix it, all right? But for people really don't know where to start, let's find something is very easy to access it. And everybody should not have any problem to get it because we're talking about a lot of things that are very expensive, right? But in our daily life in the supermarket, you actually can find those things, right? Can you give us a little bit of those names and different types so people are like, okay, I can do that. After they listen to us 15 minutes, I still don't know where to start, right? So we want to get people a little bit just like, hey, this is very easy to start and it's very affordable, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So to say, I mean, with fruits, one of the great things you can get, and they do it in most supermarkets around, you do things like frozen berries,
Mm-hmm.
and they could be mixed things. It could be raspberries, strawberries, blackberries.
Berries,
It
yeah.
depends where you are. Um, those fruits can often be very expensive when you buy them fresh, but if you get a bag of them frozen, it's usually a lot more affordable. That's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely great. You could chuck it into a smoothie. You could make a sort of coolest out of it. You can make desserts out of it, and they're super healthy fruits.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a really good thing. For getting sort of those sort of healthy fats, often nuts and seeds are a really great one. You can also look at things like olive oil, rapeseed oil they have here in the UK as well, which is actually
Mhm.
it's usually cheaper and it's absolutely fine. Um, but nuts and seeds are a really good one. Also, just things like your legumes, your beans, your pulses,
Mhm.
all of these kinds of things. So your things you've got your chickpeas and various kinds of beans. They're usually very affordable. You can get
Yeah.
them canned or you can get them in bulk if you buy them sort of dried, and then you can soak them. You just soak them for 48 hours. It's a really important tip with beans because a lot of people find they upset their digestion, which you need to soak them first before you cook them.
Yes.
But yeah, they're a really good source of protein and lots of healthy fiber. So yeah, and again, very affordable and very
Yeah.
accessible. There's all different kinds you can get.
So the next question is, what are some common foods or things that are really actually like damaging our skin? You would recommend it that eat less of that, Hopefully, when we put the list together, you're like, this is my top three favorite, and I'm so sorry for that. But maybe you can replace one at a time, right? So what are the top three or top fives that really no for our skin?
Yeah, yeah. So probably no surprise that the sort of the heavily processed food is definitely
I'm good, yeah.
definitely bad. The McDonald's, the KFC, these things not
Yep.
really going to be healthy for anyone. All of those foods, obviously, they're very high in sugar, they're very high in saturated fat. They've also got the hydrogenated trans fats. That's what we really don't want because they're artificial and our body doesn't know what to do with them. So, yeah, definitely avoiding those sort of hydrogenated fats. Also, foods that have been cooked in very sort of high fat, high heat cooking methods. So things
Mm.
like barbecue things or deep frying, big roasting, grilling things. Those kinds of things. That's very aging for the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those are obviously not great. Um, Also, sort of animal products in general. I'm not saying you have to go completely plant-based, but the more plant-based you can be, that is definitely been shown to be best for the skin. Dairy products are very inflammatory, and a lot of people are actually eating them and they're not really able to tolerate them. Um, so again, sort of cutting down on the amount of particularly sort of cow's milk and things that people are drinking. That's heavily influencing inflammation, which then influences conditions like eczema, psoriasis, all of these things.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, and the sort of heavily processed sugars. So again, the sorts of the candies, sweets, the donuts,
The donuts, did you hear that?
those
No donuts.
yeah, those kinds of things. I mean, as a one-off treat, they're fun, but
Yes.
when you're eating a lot of them, that is really
Balance,
really
right?
taking it.
Where's the balance? Actually, the next one I
Yeah.
kind of want you to touch on a little bit about the gut health, right? So how does gut health influence skin appearance, and what can we do to support it? Because, not many people understand that they are related. So would you like to touch on a little bit about the gut health with skin appearance?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, gut health is sort of fundamental to everything we do in nutrition, really, because
Mm,
you can eat the healthiest diet in the world, but if you can't absorb the nutrients from it properly because your gut isn't functioning properly, then it's
mm,
not going to do you any good.
mm,
And often the kind of nutrient deficiencies that we get from poor gut health, they show up on our skin, in our hair, in our nails. Often when they're not looking great, that can often be because we're not absorbing nutrients properly. And
mm,
that could be because of poor gut health.
mm,
So one of the main problems that we see people having now is just that their microbiome has really been devastated because it's a really fascinating fact, but about 90% at least of the cells in your body are not actually human. They are
mm,
actually the micro, the main population of which is in your gut. And they have a huge influence over so much. They influence our mood. If we get sort of sugar cravings, that's often caused by bacteria that have overgrown in our microbiome that are craving the sugar. Um, and so much of our health is influenced by the health of our microbiome. It
mm,
influences our metabolism, our ability to lose weight, and so much of that we will see in our skin because of hormone imbalances.
mm.
Inflammation is a huge one. So if our gut becomes damaged, we get a lot of inflammation. That causes a whole host of autoimmune conditions. And of course, we see the inflammation in our skin. We see things like eczema and dermatitis, and all of these rashes can really be a sign that there is actually something out of balance in the gut.
Wow, that's so many information to unpack. I'm like in my mind is just have so many information. So the next question that actually I want to ask you, is it normal? Correct me if it's wrong because I'm not in that stage yet, so I have no idea, but I heard a lot of things about people that feeling so hot nighttime. Is this common people have hot flash when they leading to the menopause? Is there a certain way? I think my question is like if you eat healthy, like all the things, your diet is balanced and this and that, will that symptom will be a little bit less intense when you went to that stage, or is there any way be totally not experiencing that? Or Gina, hey, don't even think about that. If you are going to menopause, that's something you definitely not gonna avoid that. I think people want to know, right? So can you help me to unpack this part a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they've done a lot of research studies into this, particularly because in certain cultures around the world, hot flashes are not really a thing. They don't really get them. In a lot of Asian countries, actually, they found where they eat a lot of soya products, they found it's greatly reduced in those
Hmm.
countries, and so they have looked into this. And yes, I mean there is definitely a link between a healthy diet, particularly in the years leading up to menopause.
Good to
Um,
know.
generally speaking,
Yeah.
people who have a healthier diet get far less hot flashes, and in fact, some don't get any at all. So
Good,
yes,
good,
it's
good.
absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm like in United States, right? I'm here in United States, and like almost, so many people, either my friends or people talk about that, and then you saw them winter time. I'm cold. I'm so cold. They were like, they were TikTok. They are super hot. They're like, Gina, wait until that moment you will understand what I mean. I'm like, when people tell me that, I'm like, first of all, I don't want to experience that. Second of all, it's like, can I avoid that, right? Because it's obviously they are suffering. Even though you think about, oh, winter time, I can wear so less clothes. They still feel not cold. But I'm like, I don't know whether I really like it. So thanks for explaining that part because like maybe, I'm have pretty healthy diet. So I try to see whether I can, work around that. Um, Next question. This is so important, okay? What is your take on this collagen product supplements? Again, I don't take any of them, But I think it's as women leading to, I think, a 40, 50, I mean, more or less people, or even people in the 30s, I think they started taking because they're so afraid to have the aging come out. But what's your taking away on those? Does this really help? Or like, maybe not. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a really common one that I get asked actually. But it's important to understand sort of how basically protein works in the body. So for a start, all animals make their own protein and their own collagen, therefore. So a lot of these supplements they'll have like fish collagen or beef collagen or so on. Well, that's completely different from human collagen anyway. So if you really
Mm.
wanted to have human collagen, you'd have to be a cannibal, which I don't recommend. Um, but the other problem is that when we take in any kinds of proteins, our body breaks them down into the separate molecules, essentially.
Mhm.
So even if you are eating collagen, it is not going to come out as collagen. Your body is going to break it down into little pieces and it will then make it into any kind of protein that it feels like, and it may not be collagen. So there really is no evidence that collagen supplements
Works.
will do anything to boost collagen, and it's a lot of marketing involved there, so I really wouldn't recommend people spending money on.
Well, I feel like we crush a lot of people's, not their dream, but we're crushing a lot of people's how they think things are gonna work, but actually things maybe not work. Oh, well, let's do a little bit uplifting, okay? So we wrap up with some uplifting message because I think the whole point is that people learn something and then they can change a little bit in their diet to for a better, outcome instead of invest a lot of money and doesn't come out what they want and they feel disappointed and back to our mental health, right? So if someone is feeling very overwhelmed with changing their diet and then say, well, after maybe I want to do 15 minutes, but we definitely more than 15 minutes, which I have so many questions to unpack, which is great. What are some small steps they can take so they don't to start improving their skin health instead of like, oh, now you tell me no, well, we didn't talk about coffee, but actually, a lot of coffee, alcohol, sugar, deep fried things, a lot of things that people love it in United States, actually they are not good for you. And we talk about it, collagen, you take a lot of expensive collagen or, and other medical way to make people feel used, it's not work. So if people are super overwhelmed, what are some steps they can take? You can like slowly, for a better outcome, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing to do is just start by really sort of finding out, what your current diet is like,
Mhm.
because so many people they don't really realize what they're eating on a day-to-day basis. And a good place to start is there's so many apps these days, there's things you get on your phone. You can keep it just to keep a basic food diary, just to make a start. And there are things you can actually look at then that sort of see what kind of nutrients that you're getting. You don't want to obsess over it. You don't want to get too hung up on all of the numbers.
Yeah.
Um, but to then sort of start to see, okay, well, maybe I'm not eating as many fruits and vegetables as I might be. So then maybe you can think about, okay, how can I swap in maybe sort of one snack I'm going to have a fruit salad instead,
Mhm.
and just start really small, and always be kind to yourself as well. I mean, you don't want to get into this position where you're feeling guilty every time, you have a donut or something. You really want to do it from a place of, self-compassion, and just generally, gradually make those small changes, is a good place to start.
I love you. Because our Facebook group is really back to, help people to share and transform their life, and the mental health is a big part because mental health related to everything, right? Your physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health. So, I think it's super important. I'm glad that we tied the bow back here to, wrap up here. So for people, if they want to check in your work, maybe, probably working with you, how can they find you and what kind of service you provide, to wrap up here?
Yeah, absolutely. So people can find me over on my website, which is jonesjoycoaching.co.uk. I'm also over on Instagram and YouTube. Have various little tips and things I share on there. Um, and yeah, I have all sorts of little bundles of resources that people can check out. A Facebook group that people can join as well. to get, more sort of top tips on taking care of the skin and the general health. And then I have a variety of, coaching programs. I have one dedicated to skin health. And so if people are interested, they can check that out on my website.
Perfect. So when I release this episode, just feel free to, if some link that I didn't include, you can comment down there and put your link there. And we encourage people to check those beautiful guests because each of them, they deserve probably an hour and a half even to unpack, other area because special areas they cover. So we are so honored today to have Kate here, and thank you for joining us with from UK. We have literally another guest from UK. I want to see how many guests from UK this week. But I really thank you for coming in, sharing. And if you guys interested, if you have some special guests you want to invite them in, DM me. I'm going to send an invitation for them to join our group to share their wisdom and their teaching so we can learn from each other, so we can transform as a community, as a collective. So thank you for tuning in. I will see you next week.